Let's talk about what a Kennedy revolution might look like. Let's talk about some of the issues of your campaign. And I want to start with immigration because last week you took a 3-day visit to the Mexican border in Yuma, Arizona. And you took a video of yourself there at 2 a.m. where you're documenting hundreds of migrants flooding over the border from places like Senegal, Peru, Pakistan, and Colombia. You called what you saw there a dystopian nightmare. Tell me about what you saw and how it affected your view of current American immigration policy.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. And anybody who, has any kind of humanitarian concerns should not be supporting the open border policy. These people have almost universally been victimized by the cartels. The cartels are now running U.S. immigration policy. That's what we've ended up with. The cartels are recruiting these people. And, the shocking thing to me is there was only 2 or 3 families that were from Latin America or Central America. Almost all of the people that we saw were from Europe and Asia. They were from Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Tibet, Nepal, and then all of the countries in West Africa. It was just this extraordinary logistical accomplishment by the cartels that they're able to recruit these people, to entice them into believing that, into understanding that they can walk across the border, that they can get on a bus, they'll spend 5 days in custody, and that then the U.S. government will pay for their plane ride to any city in America that they choose, and that nobody will harass them for 7 years. And that is how it took me 3 days down there to really comprehend how bad this system is. But that first night when we saw these people coming, it was heartbreaking. There was right across the border, visible through the fence, on U.S. policy, because the fence on U.S. property, the fence is north of Mexico, so it doesn't go right along the border. It goes, in some cases, a half mile north of the border, whatever. And there's a tree there called the rape tree, where the cartels extract what they call the final payment, from women and children who are subdued at that tree and raped there.
Oh, my God.
I talked to a Peruvian family who'd had every penny that they had earned during their entire lifetime removed from them before they crossed the border by the cartels. Oh, the cartels.
Why is this being allowed to happen? Why is this in the American interest?
It is a terrible policy, and I think it happened because of political tribalism in this country and pettiness. And by the way, I was completely against the wall during, when Trump would talk about it. I would snicker at it, and there's environmental problems with the wall, and all of the idea of putting a 2,200-mile wall from San Diego to Brownsville, Texas, is an ecological nightmare, and it's
but now,
a waste of money. Well, now, I think I have a more nuanced view of it, that you do need a physical barrier in some places, and particularly where there's denser populations. You need that. There are many people who need to go, who migrate, thousands, tens of thousands of people who migrate from Mexico every day, every morning to work in the United States. Many of them are agricultural workers, but they're all kind of low, they're all kind of low-income workers, but they're salaried workers who are coming across to work in hotels, and it's legal immigration. They have visas. So you need an orderly border where people can cross, for legal immigration. And then you need, in those areas that are very heavily populated, you need to block off that kind of easy access that I was witness to. And you need to enforce Title IX, too, which says when people come across, you detain them and you deport them. And we don't do that. Instead, we give them a plane ticket. The U.S. taxpayer is paying for their plane ticket to go anywhere in the world. Meanwhile, there's 7 million, there's 1.5 million or 2 million people now coming across every year illegally, and we have only 1 million people, 1.1 million people coming in legally.
You sound like a conservative on immigration policy. Would you say that's fair?
I'm just an American. There's no country in the world.
But then why has this become, you are slaughtering every sacred cow in your answer to this in a way I appreciate. In other words, among progressives, To suggest that what's going on at the border is anything other than totally copacetic, is regarded as xenophobic, is regarded as racist, is regarded somehow as cruel. And you're saying, no, the status quo is cruel. Why has that become unsayable?
Because I would say that what they call Trump derangement syndrome is true, that the Democratic Party suddenly, that Trump became such a bugaboo for Democrats that anything that Trump said was good had to be bad. Mm-hmm. So Democrats used to be opposed to the trade deals, to NAFTA, et cetera. Mm-hmm. The unions were against them. And as soon as Trump expressed concern about them, they became, sacred cows for the Democrats. The Democrats were evenly divided on vaccines prior to 2016. And when Trump said, vaccines cause autism, then the Democrats put all vaccine discussion in the same dumpster, anti-science dumpster, as they put, Trump's climate denial. And I saw something at the border that was truly extraordinary, because there were parts of the walls that when Trump went out of office, there were big sections of the walls which were huge problem sections in the places that I was in Yuma, Arizona, that were not finished. They were incomplete. But all the steel and the metal had all been purchased, and it was stacked on the ground where I saw it. Acres and acres of material that cost tens or maybe 20s, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars. And when the Biden administration came in, they ordered the seizure that all work on the wall be stopped. So those gaps were left open, and that was what we were watching, these people come through that gap.
So if you became president, would you close those gaps?
Now, let me just finish.
Okay.
Not only that, but there were sensors. There were ground sensoring devices. There were cameras on towers, and there were lights, and there were infrared sensors that were removed. So that infrastructure was already there, but it was removed. And it was removed really out of spite or pettiness toward Trump. Now, when Mr. Mayorkas, Secretary Mayorkas, DHS, went down there and the Border Patrol went to him and said, you got to close these gaps. We're getting, we cannot do any job down here where these gaps are open. Secretary Mayorkas said, we'll close the gaps, but we're not going to use the metal that Trump used. We're going to do a Biden wall, and it has to be a different color than the Trump wall. So they left all that material on the ground, and they went out and bought a new kind of wall, which you can see now if you go down there, that is more like, looks like a cage or, a fencing. And the problem with it is that it doesn't go underground. So many of the tunnels now, a lot of the immigration, the really bad immigration, because the legal immigration is coming across. The bad immigrants, the bad people, the people who may have terrorist connections, the people who are criminals, the people who are drug dealers are not coming through that gap. They're going underground, or they're going through, other breaches. So those gaps in the wall that were repaired during the Biden administration by an inferior fence are encouraging those kind of tunnels, and it was all pettiness. And so, you asked why this is happening. I would say that it is, it's through this spiteful hatred of Donald Trump, and I'm no fan of Donald Trump, but I am a fan of good policy, and I don't think spite or pettiness or, tribalism is a good justification for any policy.